This is the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. Today is Wednesday, June 17th. It is officially 7 o'clock, and we are live here in Sherman Oaks. We have a bunch of folks decided it's too hot to come out, and so they are on the Zoom calls. Bob, how many do we have at home? 80-something. Okay, hello everybody at home. For the folks that are here, what did you guys think of the burgers she wrote? Nice smash burgers. This is Vi. She is the heart of the operation because she is director of operations, is that right? Or the
Yes,
president
that's
of
correct.
operations?
I'm the mayor. No, I'm just kidding. I'm the director of operations for Burger She Wrote. The restaurant's owned by someone named Don Wynn. His name is Nuge. He's got a couple of fans here. He's a professional skateboarder. He opened the first location in the Beverly area, or the Fairfax area, in 2021. This is our second location here in Sherman Oaks, and we're just so happy to be here. We opened on May 30th, and we have been so busy, lying out the door, and so we feel really welcomed, but I just wanted to get to know the community more, so I was attending some meetings with Matt, just trying to get to know the community. So if you live in the area, or own a home in the area, which I know you all do, please stop by. We're open every day from 11:30 to 10. I left some coupons over at the table, so it's buy one, get one for your first time in store, so to incentivize you to bring a friend or a family member. But our menu is really simple. What you're eating tonight is our best-selling item. It's our single smash burger. We also have an Oklahoma burger where the onions are grilled into the patty itself. Harder to do to go, but you got to try it in store, and I hope you will. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Then welcome to Sherman Oaks.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's hear it.
Q&A.
Oh,
I
thank you,
made a
Jane.
mistake. Yes, thank you, Jane. I made the horrible mistake of not putting our address on that coupon. You can look us up, but we're located at 14245 Ventura Boulevard, which is next to the Whole Foods in Osteria La Boca, on Tyrone and Ventura, I believe. Plenty of street parking, so I hope you'll swing by.
Obviously not a Valley girl. In between Beverly Glen and Hazeltine, on the north side of the street.
Yeah, okay, not a Valley girl.
Welcome to the Valley.
Thank you so much,
All right,
Matt.
thank you, Jane. And let's hear it for let's also hear it for Jane Kaplan, my wonderful wife. She's in charge of the food committee, and she keeps us fed. So thank you, Jane. The board members, come on up. After the board members come on up, self-introductions. Give us a quick introduction, and if you have anything to say, come on, Bob, hurry up. Get up here, guys. Larry, where are you? Larry, come on. Tom Glick may be here a little bit later. Come on, John. Come on, Jay. Tom is at the Dodger game and fighting traffic to come over here, so we'll see if he gets out here. After the board introductions, we're going to have, if there's any candidates that are running for an office, we'd like to have you up here, and then after that, any electeds, representatives. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Bob Anderson. I'm Vice President, one of the two, Marie's the other one, and I'm also the chair of the Transportation Committee, and I'm Metro's worst enemy. So
Maria Pavlou-Calban, and I do the Legislative Committee, and we're changing focus from local to state because there's a few bills that we're concerned about. So thank you all who are writing letters when we're asking you to, and if you're not on our email address, let me know, because United Neighbors is doing a lot of work on that area.
Thanks, Maria. Tammy Scher, I'm the business liaison, and we're doing an Adopt a Tree program for businesses. So if you have a tree in front that you'd like to adopt, you'll get a certificate, a nice certificate from us, and we'll show you how to do it. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Joan Pellico, Government Relations. I'm so sorry. I do that every time to you guys at home. I'm so sorry. Joan Pellico, Government Relations for SOHA. Councilmember Blumenfield is in the house, everybody. And also, I mean, there's quite a few friends of mine here, but his incredible, beautiful Chief of Staff, Lisa Hanson. Okay, I have to do this. My apologies, everybody, for reading, but I don't want to mess this up. So a very good friend of ours at SOHA and a good friend of mine just earned her professional certificate in local government and community, partnering for success through the Center for California Real Estate and Pepperdine University's Davenport Institute for Public Engagement and Civic Leadership. Jody Francisco, congratulations. Stand up, please. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Larry Slade. I chair the Land Use Committee, and I agree with what Maria just said. There was a time years ago where when there were new developments proposed in Sherman Oaks, we could form a committee, mobilize the community, negotiate directly with the developers, mitigate the impact of the project on traffic, on height, and things along those lines. But there have been massive changes in state law that remove the discretionary nature of many of these developments, and so we're really focusing more of our energy statewide on trying to mitigate the impact of state legislation that makes most of these projects by right. So there's been a massive shift in our ability to impact what goes on in our local community, and the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association is active across many organizations, Maria in particular, and Jeff Calvin, trying to help mitigate the impacts of what's going on. But we've lost a lot of our ability to influence it locally, and we're fighting to get it back.
Hi, I'm Jay Weitzler. I'm the secretary of the organization. And I'd like to point out something. Well, I'd like to ask you, everybody has read this newsletter that you get every month, right? Closely, probably 2, 3, 4 times, committing it to memory. Well, Matt and I don't always agree on everything, but when it comes to food, this man knows what he's talking about, as you know, because he owns a restaurant in a city near us. And in the Comings and Goings article that Matt wrote, right next to where it says Comings and Goings, in the middle of the article, he talks about a new business that I wanted to give a shout out to. It's called Mother's Bread. It's right behind the new liquor store on Dixie Canyon and Ventura Boulevard. And the people that own it are fabulous. A fellow Nick and his wife, they're from Georgia, the country, not the state. And they make only one thing, sourdough bread. Who here likes sourdough bread? And the Mother's Bread literally is called Mother's Bread in Georgia. So trust me, I've gotten a couple of loaves already. Go by there, talk to Nick. He's a heck of a nice guy. You are going to love the place. Let's support our local business.
Hi, I'm John Eisen. I'm the treasurer of the association. 2 things. First of all, one of you filled out an application for SOHA membership in April and paid with cash. I didn't see it until last month, and I put in my pocket your membership application and I lost it. So if it was you who paid cash in April, come see me after the meeting. Secondly, this Saturday, our council member, Nithya Raman, CD4, is having a hike in Griffith Park for the summer soloist. 4 years ago, I went on this hike. It was so much fun. I was the only person from Sherman Oaks who went 4 years ago. This year, Jay Weitzler and I are going to go to this hike. It's at 6:30 and starts at the Griffith Park Observatory. If there's anybody who would like to join us, see me after the meeting. Thank you.
And I think part of the reason he's telling that too is in case they don't come back, you will know where they were. Okay, so LAPD. Let's hear it for Los Angeles Police Department. We have the best group from the Van Nuys station, our two senior leads, and our big honcho man, Chris here. Crime's down. You guys got it done. Your staff is down. Crime is down. You guys are kicking ass, right?
It is. But as you guys know, I do cover the northern part of Sherman Oaks. I have seen, and I know this is like a broken record, but
What's your name?
Senior Lead Officer Mariana Romo.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you. I feel like home, that's why I forget to introduce myself. Just a quick friendly reminder, I keep seeing reports for vehicle break-ins. We still continue to see reports where people forget to put their property away from public view. These criminals, they look at every single car to see what's the best targeted vehicle. Please try to put your stuff away. That way they do not target your vehicle. And I see them around the park, and I see them around the mall as well. July is coming up, 4th of July. I know everyone hears the fireworks and everyone wants to call our non-emergency number. Every single call that is made, an officer has to show up and investigate the radio call. The calls become a huge volume for the officers. We do have a link on our website, on our LAPD website, where you can actually submit your complaint that you heard fireworks or you saw fireworks. Please do that. This way, when you do call, it does not, it alleviates the cost for service for the officers. Just a quick reminder. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Senior Lead Officer Mike Perez for the southern portion of Sherman Oaks. And I just want to piggyback on what Mariana was saying regarding the fireworks. So if you want to report fireworks, please do it through the 311 LA my 311 LA application. 911 in the case of an emergency, medical emergency, or a fire. Okay, so don't call 911 for the fireworks. I have an event next week at the Starbucks Coffee on Ventura and Alot at 1:30 p.m. There's a flyer there if you're interested in coming. We have a couple more senior lead officers, and we will answer your questions and introduce ourselves with that event. Last thing I have tonight is the 2026 National Night Out, which will be held at Van Nuys Police Station on Tuesday, August 4th, beginning at 5 o'clock. So you come out to the police station. We have our senior lead officers. We have a bunch of vendors out there, and it's a good time to come out and meet neighbors and people of different areas. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks. Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody. Captain Christopher Zine, I'm the commanding officer of Van Nuys area. So regarding crime, statistically, we're down in crime. I think you guys all know I hate statistics, right? Because they're numbers. Regarding burglaries, we're down about 42% for the Van Nuys Sherman Oaks area. Okay, so big strides in that. We made a lot of good arrests, a lot of good investigations. With that said, it's summer, people are going on vacation. Please make sure your house looks occupied. Don't leave packages, don't leave mail out. Make sure somebody's watching your property. Please set your alarm. Okay. Regarding the FIFA games, there's been some questions about that. There's been no issues so far. So we do have our deployment for that. We're trying to use overtime for that, so we're not affecting patrol resources. But I think you all know we're down about 1,600 officers, so we're really hurting for officers. If you know anybody who wants to be a police officer, please encourage them to do so. And then lastly, if you want to be a volunteer, we are looking for volunteers. So we have the community patrols, volunteer surveillance teams. We need the community's help to work in partnership, so please consider it. All right, and have a great summer.
So a volunteer, what is the minimum amount of time that somebody can be a volunteer with LAPD? They have to put 40 hours a week in?
If you can do 16 hours a month, 2 8-hour shifts, we're happy with that.
Okay, so some of you folks who are sitting at home looking for something to do at home, some of you guys, I'm not pointing back into the room, I'm talking about the people on the Zoom call. Call Chris. They need your help. Thanks.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Okay, we have Tim, you want to come on up? Anthony, you want to come on up? Are there any other field deputies or, hold on one second, I'm going to do the field deputies first and then we're going to do folks running for office. Come on, you're the only one. Look at you.
Hello, everyone. Anthony from Assemblyman Nick Schultz's office. Just a few quick updates regarding the budget and what's going on in Sacramento. So the budget was passed on June 15th. The session ended around 11:47 p.m., but the budget was passed. This was the biggest budget in California state history. As you guys have seen, the governor said we have a structural deficit of 0 with high returns and reserves going off-putting for future years to kind of balance out the budget for future years. So that's what's going on regarding the budget.
What does that mean? What did you just say?
So typically,
just dial it down for us dummies here.
The returns were high, and that could have went to the general fund for spending, but they're basically saying we're not touching this for future years to kind of offset the budget, the budget deficit for future, like for upcoming
So what is
years.
the budget deficit that you guys approved?
Right now, well, the governor has said that there's no deficit for 25-26. So
Okay.
the
That's
first
good.
time
That's good news.
The first time I was out here, it was about 18 billion, but returns were so high from high income earners and in taxes that it was way higher than the governor's office projected. That they've got it down, and there were some cuts to the budget. They looked at it from a very conservative approach and said that we want to take care of our communities, but we also need to think about spending in the future budget of our state. And just a few more quick things from Assemblyman Nick Schultz. He has so the House of Origin has passed. So all the Assembly bills are off to the Senate and vice versa. Right. So if you guys have any opinions on what's going on right now, the Senate bills are going to be. He's going to be able to vote on. The Assembly bills have already passed. If you guys have any questions about any way he's voted on Assembly bills, I'm more than happy to get that information to you. There's like 1,000 bills. So I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know a few. Right now, as far as the Senate, if it's not public safety, he'll hear it. He'll be able to vote on it on the floor. Assembly Bill 2319 is this post-production tax credit bill. It did not make it into the budget. So this is going to have to be an agreement with the governor. If this is $100 million funding for post-production tax credit, we're one of the only states that don't have post-production tax credit, and we feel it. People are leaving our state. Film is leaving our state. So this is a way for Assemblyman Nick Schultz and the state of California to keep film home. And furthermore, if you guys have any needs of a state agency, EDD, the DMV, the Franchise Tax Board, please reach out to me. I'm happy to give you my card. I'm more than happy to help. As well as Caltrans, I'm the lead in Caltrans in the office. If you guys see any state property that's not looking up to par, reach out to me and I'll facilitate communication with Caltrans. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Anthony. So we have one candidate in the room, and who are you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Gaspar. I'm running for LA City Council for CD3. That's the West San Fernando Valley, currently occupied by Bob Blumenfield. Bob's terming out at the end of this year, and thankfully he has endorsed me. I've been in the Valley my entire life. I built a business here in the Valley. I went to all public schools, went to Pierce, CSUN. I'm running for this job for one reason and one reason only, and that is to make the quality of life for the folks that live here better. That is it, and that's through public safety. I'm the only candidate that's endorsed by the LAPD rank and file union, which is the LAPPL. Investing in young people, that is our future, and we're just not doing a good job of that right now. And I mentioned I've been a business owner most of my life. Currently on the city council, there's not a single person that has ever run a business, so there's not anybody there that really knows how to support small business people like Vi, and the hamburger was amazing. Thank you. So again, I'm running to make life better for everyone. My website is timgaspar.com. I'll be hanging out to answer any questions and really just appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
And how, in the election that we had 2 weeks ago, how did you fare in the percentage? Were you on the top of the heat? I know you were one of two, obviously.
That's right. So in the primary, I ended up ending in first place, and so not enough to be able to get over that 50% hump to avoid the runoff, but still first place, and so going into the runoff for November 3rd, along with just myself and one other opponent, and that's it.
Okay, terrific. Thank
Awesome.
you. Good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, Bob, come on up. So, most of you know Bob. He was up in Sacramento. He's going to tell you about himself. But this is your third term as a city council member, and you are termed out. And so you've got a little bit of time left. And I'm excited to sit here after you tell us all about yourself and talk about the past election and the future election coming up and what's going on and stuff. But let's hear a little bit about you. And I know you've got some future plans as far as politics, and love to hear about it.
Well, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here, and Thank you, Tim, for coming out from, I don't know, we should tell Tim that Sherman Oaks is not actually in the district. But but obviously I don't realize that either because I'm here as well. And that just says a lot about particularly this organization here really has a far reach that goes citywide. And so many of you I know, not just because of our long history, but because you make a point of coming to City Hall and trying to make a difference. So I haven't represented City Hall, the Sherman Oaks, for a while, but I've been involved with Sherman Oaks for a very long time. I used to work for Howard Berman, and that's when I first got involved with the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. In fact, Richard Close and I got very close, working on a number of things, including the 405 expansion. That was a big project that we worked on together to get that extra lane. So I used to have lunch with him, and I thought Jules was coming as well. Jules is a good friend. Jules is now actually in the 3rd District, but his heart's still here in Sherman Oaks. And so many of you I've known, and when I was in the Assembly, after I worked for Howard Berman for a number of years, I actually ran for State Assembly, and I served in the State Assembly, and I got to represent Sherman Oaks, and I got to know a number of you in that capacity. And then I was being termed out of the Assembly after 6 years. That term limits were a little different then. They've since changed the term limits that now you can serve a total of 12 years in either combination in either body. When I was there, the rule was 6 in the Assembly and potentially 8 in the Senate. And technically, I'm grandfathered into that, so I can't serve any more years in the Assembly, but theoretically, I can serve years in the State Senate. But I won't talk about that right now because I'm here in my official capacity as a city council member, not to answer your question about the fact that I'm running for State Senate in 2028. But I'm not going to talk about that. Yeah. I'm glad to be here, and and SOHA, even though I haven't represented the area, I've gone to your toy drive every year, and have been part of this. I feel close to all of you, and Joan has been a close friend, and I've gotten to know through City Hall and everything else. And Tom, you mentioned is at the Dodger game, but he and I worked very closely together on the Warner Center plan when he was in planning, and text each other on different things. And Matt and just so many of you had the great opportunity to work with. So you asked me to talk about a number of different issues, and what I thought I would do is I would touch on some of those issues. And I want to mention my...
Tom just showed up.
All right.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, here he is in the back. Hey, Tom. Yes, we heard you were fighting traffic. So you guys asked me to talk about a number of issues, and I wanted to point out my staff. Joan mentioned Lisa, my chief of staff, but we have Alice, who many of you know because she used to represent this area. She's on my field team now and does an amazing job. And of course, Elizabeth, who is my planning director. And I know, I definitely wanted Elizabeth to be here because you guys are really deep into planning, and when there's going to be a really tough question on planning, I'm just going to turn it over to Elizabeth, and she's going to answer it. So feel free to ask whatever detailed questions you want because she's going to handle it. But you asked me to talk about a couple of different topics. I thought I would touch on those topics, and then really move to questions and talk about whatever you want to talk about because I'm comfortable any topic under the sun. But we'll start. You asked me to talk about the city budget, and those of you who know me know that I've been very involved in budgeting, really my whole life. Not only do I have a finance degree from UCLA, and I went to the Anderson School. But I've also, when I worked on the federal level, I worked on the budget committee in Congress. When I was in the state assembly, I was the budget chair in the state, and I served as the budget chair in council for a little while, although I'm now on the planning chair. So I've been very involved in budgets. And the question is always, what's our budget? Is it balanced? Well, our budget's about $14 billion, $14.8 billion. And it is balanced in the strict sense of the word in that revenues equal expenses. But it's not really balanced if you look at the sort of hidden deficits that are in this budget, and there are a lot of them. So it is legally balanced, and the numbers are balanced. But when you look at all the deferred maintenance that we have, whether it's in the parks that are right outside, or streets, sidewalks, civic buildings, libraries, fire, police stations, we all know that we have just a tremendous deficit that is just hidden in a lot of our infrastructure and our lack of services. And that is a problem. A large percentage of city vehicles are way beyond their useful life. We're not funding technology, the kind of technology that will allow us to be more efficient. We often shortchange our core functions like planning and updating of community plans, and we can get into that later. But part of it is politically it's not sexy to do those things. I'm always pushing for those boring things, but that's what's important in many respects. Even today, I mean, today, by the way, I came here, and it's probably still going on. I had to leave early. We were doing charter reform. We've been doing it all day. And we're talking about budgets. One of the things that came up was a budget proposal to wall off a portion of the budget to increase the percentage that goes to parks. Now, I'm a big park guy, okay? I used to work for the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. I helped put together a water bond, a park bond. I worked on Prop K. I'm a big believer in it, but I'm also someone who's been traumatized by the budget process when I was in the state assembly, and I don't like seeing our budget being determined at the ballot box and creating these artificial walls. But of course, what happened today, for example, in charters, there was a motion saying, oh, well, we should set aside a larger percentage for the parks. And I'm the only one who voted no on that. And I didn't vote no, and I would probably say that I am probably in the council, the person who is most park, a biggest park advocate. But I did so because I understand the budget process, and when you just set aside, it's so easy to make a vote out of context, and to say, oh yeah, let's just vote more for this, more for that. When you actually have to do the context and figure out where the money's going to come from, it's a lot harder. So, and that's sort of the problem that happens with our budget overall. A lot of the things that need to get funded sometimes don't. This can also happen because as a city, we're very well-meaning in taking on new responsibilities, but those responsibilities, outside of the context of the entire budget, you don't see the consequences. A great example of that is health services. All of our health services are actually supposed to be done by the County of Los Angeles, not by the City of Los Angeles. Public health is a county function, and our homelessness crisis, for a large example, is, in large part, it is a health crisis, where we have mental health, drug addiction, things that the county is squarely in their lap. But of course, as a city, we can't be heartless. We can't have people sleeping on the street. We have to have solutions. And we have brick and mortar solutions, but we end up spending money, our general fund, on things that should be funded by other agencies like the county. So in many ways, like on homelessness, we've become the waiting room for county health services. So we put up these interim sites, and people are waiting there to get the county services, and we're paying. So that's part of the structural problem. But we're in a situation where, in terms of homelessness, you're seeing people who are often sicker, who are on the streets. A lot of the folks that were easier to get housed have been, but you're seeing sicker and sicker people on the streets. So we need the county to deliver when it comes to mental health and substance abuse. I'm a big believer in terms of homelessness, that really everyone should have a right to housing. People need a place to be. But that doesn't mean that people have a right to privatize public space and to be anywhere that they want to be. We need to have the carrot and the stick when it comes to homelessness. We need to have the services available for people, but we also need to be able to say that these areas are off limits to encampments, and that they're choices that have to be made, and encourage people to make those choices to take advantage of the services that either we or the county or others are offering. Because that's the way we're going to get out of homelessness, is ultimately by having the services available, but also by understanding that our streets are not meant to be encampment zones. Other solutions for our city's budget woes, I mean, there are some fees, and nobody likes to hear about that. There are things fees that need to match the actual costs. Like, we're going to find out next week on the lighting fee that was out there, and I know a lot of folks didn't like that, but it hadn't been updated since 1996. One of the reasons why they were able to keep going for so long is because we switched to LEDs, which are often cheaper. So the city's been kind of struggling along. But not having good lighting is a big problem. It's a big problem for public safety, and with It's compounded by the copper wire theft and all that. Trash fees, another example. You know, nobody likes to see the trash fees go up, but that was $100 million that the general fund or the taxpayers were subsidizing the fees that people pay on the trash. But it's not just about that. That's a tiny piece of it. We need to be more efficient as a city, and we need to do more focused on our core functions as a city. Because we take on, as I said, we take on everything, and then no programs ever it's very hard to close down a program. So I'm happy to get into more of that detail as we talk. I know one of the other issues you wanted me to talk about was SB 79. Are you all familiar with that? Yeah. I know this group is very familiar with that. Look, we're facing a housing crisis. That is a big problem. And the state last year enacted SB 79, which requires the city to allow more housing near 145 high-quality transit stations in our city. That includes areas with single-family zoning, especially in higher resource neighborhoods like Sherman Oaks, West LA, Tarzana, Woodland Hills. And as chair of and by the way, as a council, I voted against SB 79. You know, we were able to put a resolution in about it. I didn't think I thought it was a little too heavy-handed. But as a city, now that it's passed, we have to figure out how to implement it. And as chair of the Planning and Land Use Committee, I've been leading the effort to try to implement that in a sensible way as required. And I can assure you, your SOHA board members are actively engaged. You know that, and I appreciate that. It's important that you guys are paying attention to these laws. As you mentioned earlier, so many new state laws that are changing the way local land use is done. Whereas in the past, a group like this could focus on local legislation, you are right to focus on the state side now, because that is where the biggest impact is happening. So we have to partially implement SB 79 by July 1st by adopting what's called the Phased Implementation Ordinance. July 1st is around the corner. Specifically, we must allow at least half of the required density of SB 79 to be written into law. What does that mean? So doing this will give the city, by the way, if we do that, if we implement this half, that'll allow us under the state law until 2030 to develop a full, what's called a local alternative plan, which requires us to allow SB 79's required capacity, but gives us flexibility in terms of where the density goes. Because if we don't do that, SB 79 just gets turned on, and the density is what it is, and we have to just absorb it. So if the city doesn't allow this 50% density before July 1st, the entirety of SB 79 automatically goes in. And I want you to understand what that actually means. I don't think people put it in this context, but SB 79 requires the city to add development capacity for approximately 2.8 million more units of housing around the stations defined by SB 79. Think about that. In the city of Los Angeles, currently, there are less than 2 million units of actual built housing in our entire city. And this SB 79 is a full thing, allows the capacity for 2.8 million more units. Now, this analogy helps understand the sheer scale of this, but I also don't want to over-exaggerate it, and I want to make sure you understand the difference between capacity and built housing, because I don't want to miscompare those numbers. The first number I gave you, the 2.8 billion, is the is the capacity amount. And the 2 million that we have in the city is the actual built. But it still gives you a sense of it, of how large this SB 79 really is. And be aware that all of this newly mandated housing is intended to be concentrated within a half mile of major transit stops as defined by SB 79. It requires increased development capacity at more than 50 stations, and the maps are done by SCAG. I know you know a lot of this. It affects the Orange Line for us here in the Valley and the stations around the Orange Line. In my district, it includes Reseda, Tampa, Winnetka, DeSoto stations. And because I didn't want it to just solely fall on the backs of us in the Valley, we made sure that, because they could have done that when they were talking about half of it, if they just turned SB 79 fully on our Valley stations, that was an option. We were able to push to make sure that some of that density in this first wave before 2030 gets along the existing heavy and light rail, like the red, purple, and expo lines, to make sure that those are part of the solution as well, so that we don't get unduly burdened, which often happens to us in the valley. So under the plan that was approved by council, the city is going to allow this low-rise, what's called missing middle housing types, bungalow courts, row houses, townhouses, that provide up to 16 units or 4 stories tall. These are more modest increases to the density that will allow growth and that maintains the residential character of neighborhoods. So final phase of implementation ordinance will be at the council next week. I'm sure that you guys will be there, but of course, we don't really have a lot of choices, because if we don't do it, then we have to deal with the entirety of it. So during that time, we're going to look at a lot of issues, additional issues like the number of stories, requiring deeper affordability, et cetera. We can talk more about that issue if you want to in Q&A. I also wanted to address something that may seem like a local issue in my district, but it really plays into what you were talking about in terms of new state laws. Back on November 10th, the governor, when he signed SB 79, he also signed 45 other land use bills that very same day. 2 of those bills have a dramatic impact on the Woodland Hills area, and could have a dramatic impact on this area and other areas where there are golf courses. And this was a kind of a crazy thing. So the legislation is signed November 10th, and then 10 days later, there is an application filed in the city of Los Angeles for major development in a high fire severity zone in Woodland Hills with single-family homes, but also multifamily homes. And it's filed, and in the application it says this is to be done by right, by administrative process, and no, because of these new state laws, no discretion, no CEQA, no public input, and that's what they expected. And the city has 30 days, 60 days, right? So we have a 30-day shot clock from the moment that they submit this application, according to the application, to basically approve it. And by approve it, they don't mean having a public process. They mean just checking the box. Do they have this, that, and the other thing? Of course, the neighborhood freaked out about it. We had a meeting. It was supposed to be about 30 people. It was like 1,800 people show up. And we're trying to figure out what's happening. So we do a lot of research and find out that there were 2 bills specifically that were signed into law on that 10 days earlier. So obviously the developer knew about it. One was AB 2243, the other was AB 893. And these bills amended an older bill. The older bill was AB 2011, which allowed high-density multifamily projects to be approved ministerially along commercial corridors. And these 2 bills kind of piggyback on that and open that up, that expedited process, to the golf course. And there was no way, even if I was reading every bill in the legislature, and there's no way I could humanly do that as a council member. I couldn't even do that as an assembly member. I don't think I would have spotted this, because one of these bills was about community colleges and had this language kind of tucked into it. And so we were floored by this. And so since then, I've been trying to throw everything at the wall to figure out how can we kick this back into a discretionary process, because the developers really played us on this. I mean, they had come to me a year earlier and talked about this project, and I said, whoa, that's a lot, and they wanted variances. I'm like, I'm not going to just grant variance. We're going to have a community process, and we'll talk, and we'll try to figure something out, and we'll negotiate something. But it has to be with the community. They went radio silent, and then we figured out why, because this bill had been passed. So these 2 bills stripped out the protections that were in AB 2011 that designed to prevent its misuse, and we've been digging to try to figure out solutions around it. We looked at an issue. I thought the answer was going to be in the definition of vacant land, because if the land is vacant, then it doesn't trigger this bill. But they were very clever in the definitions of vacant land. It's kind of ambiguous, and these golf courses are not being counted as vacant land because there's some development, there's a golf pad on it, or or a shack on part of it. So it makes it, that's not working. The one last Hail Mary that we're pushing, which may work, is we're relying on mountain lions and bats, because if there are endangered species there, that may be a reason that we can kick this back into a discretionary process. Again, I'm not saying no development, but I'm saying a process. Homeowners associations, neighborhood councils, they need to be part of that process. So I'm happy to talk to you more about that, but I've been working closely with the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority, which is an arm of the Conservancy, which, I'm very close with them. I used to work for the Conservancy. They've been very helpful, and we're moving forward on that. And so I hope to have some news on that soon. We were able to get the application deemed incomplete, so we were able to stop the clock on it. But according to the state law, they just have to cure these things. So when we stop the clock, it doesn't prevent the development. It just slows it down a little bit. So, could talk more about that, but let's move on. Generally about development. I mean, in my district, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to really concentrate the development into the Warner Center zone. One of the best things I did when I first got elected was get past the Warner Center 2035 plan. And that plan specifically allows, and Tom knows all about that plan, because he was very much involved when he was planning in putting that together. And that really is a great example of how you can create density in a way that doesn't overly impact the single-family neighborhoods. It focuses the density. It allows projects to be developed in record time. And it's, in our wildest dreams, we didn't imagine that would even result in getting the Rams to be there, but it did. And billions of dollars of investment that's coming out of that. And so we are seeing just a resurgence of growth in that area, which is really benefiting the entire area. It's the fastest growing part of the city. And we're getting some great growth out of that. So I'm excited about that. I can talk to you about what's happening with the Rams and the Promenade Mall if you're interested. I know it's a little far west, but but you guys might head over there sometime. So that's exciting. I want to jump to questions, but we have our LAPD. I see Captain Zion is here. He's always appreciate that. They talked a little bit about crime in general. For me, I'm always about, I support our LAPD in every way I can, and also trying to help them with force multipliers. I use discretionary dollars that I have to try to, get certain technologies that can help not only in the district, but help the entire area. We put in a $1.1 million in discretionary dollars to fund automatic license plate readers, or ALPRs. And so we've got like 61 of those that are being put in place right now on all the major entrances and exits off the freeway and in key locations. And that's a great way to help fight crime. Another thing is these real-time crime centers. They were trying to get these first responder drones, and they were only going to put them downtown because there wasn't enough money to do them all over. And I was able to use discretionary dollars to help make it possible to have it also out of Topanga Station. So we have those drones that are going to serve this entire valley, and they'll be focused on the West Valley, but they're quick to respond, and those are going to be a great asset to the community. They offer different vantage points for officers that can get to a location and get eyes on the ground right away. It's amazing, these real-time crime centers, what they can do and how that can be force multipliers. I went to the Beverly Hills Real-Time Crime Center, and granted, we're never going to have the kind of money that they have, but it was pretty cool, the stuff that they had that they're able to see, and the drones that they have in the air at any given moment, and how they're able to leverage that. Other issues, I talked a little bit about homelessness. Again, part of homelessness is you've got to build the services as well. When I started in the council, there was no homeless interventions in my district. I've changed that substantially. We have now many. We have multiple interim sites, including tiny homes or cabin communities. We have a family shelter. We have congregate living site. We have 9 different permanent supportive housing sites, all been put up since I've been there. And the idea is we want a place for people to go, because we also want to say that being on the streets is not acceptable, but having places for people to go is. So we've been very focused on trying to do that. But even in that, it's hard. We see some of the same people just this past weekend, we were talking about earlier, we saw this guy named Kevin who I've seen him for years. He's been in, I think, almost every one of our interventions. But you know, the drug addiction is a strong pull, and even with partnerships like Tarzana Treatment Center, which is in the area, even when you get people into housing, it sometimes takes many different times where they fall out of that housing. So it's a complicated issue. Our beds are not supposed to be mental health and drug sites. That's, again, the county. We're supposed to just be housing. If we were just having to house the people that were not severely addicted to drugs or mentally ill, we would have that problem licked. But unfortunately, that is a bigger issue. So I'll continue to support, you know, creative programs. I've been a big advocate for shared housing as well, and we put a lot of emphasis on trying to get different shared housing options in the district. I also use discretionary dollars to do that when it can't happen. It's one of those things that it shouldn't be innovative, but it unfortunately has been. In fact, I proposed a number of years ago. I'll tell a quick story, and then I guess I'll move to Q&A. But on this, like, there was a developer when Triple H first came out, a developer who was building a building, and I was talking to him about, you know, you should be helping the homeless, and he was saying, oh, there's so many problems with the homeless, and I said, well, I said, why don't you put your money where your mouth is, and he agreed, and he said, okay, I'll basically sell a building, one of the buildings about to go up to the city for, you know, it was like $5 million under the price that he was offering it, and that's between him and his accountant, Uncle Sam, and his God, you know, whatever deal they did. And we were going to do a creative project where we took this luxury building, and because this was a nice building, granite countertops and all the rest, but use it for shared housing. And I had this vision of Golden Girls, you know, seniors living together on part of it, and kind of on the duplexes, make it like Friends and have young people. And anyway, at the time, we tried to get that. We got a nonprofit to put an application in, and it was too innovative for the Innovation Fund because they couldn't compare shared housing units to other forms of housing. And of course, this was expensive housing if you looked at it on a unit basis, but if you looked at it on a basis of how many people it could serve, it would have been really cheap. So that project unfortunately fell out. But since then, the idea of shared housing has gotten more traction, and we've worked with a group called Share, and we have a number of houses in the district that are shared housing, and they're really successful. We also did something with Providence Hospital with shared housing. When Providence was getting their new hospital wing, you all know about the wing there, so they came to me and they needed a lot of permits, and you know, usually as a council member, you work with them or you shake them down for lots of goodies for the community and different things like that. And I said to them, I said, look, this is a great project. We don't need a lot of things in this community, but we need one thing. I need help with the mentally ill and drug addicted population in this area, because as a council member, I have no tools. That's all in the county. I need you. We will roll the red carpet out for this project if you help with this. And long story short, they agreed to invest over $1 million into a project that would involve the purchase of off-site housing and patient navigators in the emergency room, where they would basically find someone when they're at the lowest point and refer them to those off-site locations where they would be treated for their physical and mental issues. Anyway, long story short, it's been a very successful program compared to other programs. A lot of people have gone through it. It's helped get people off the street. It's kind of morphed a few times. It's run with the Tarzana Treatment Center. But the idea is we've got to be creative as we deal with these issues as well. So I'll stop there since I know you're chomping at a bit for me to stop talking, and I'll be happy to open it up to questions.
Fantastic. So let's start backwards from where you ended, and then we'll go forward, because you've got a lot to unpack there. You've been part of city council for 12 years. Mm-hmm. Yes or no, has the homeless is it better than it was 12 years ago, or is it worse?
12 years ago, it's worse.
Okay.
And 4 years ago, it's better.
Okay. So by a few percentage, a handful of people. So The frustrating folks, the frustrating emails that we get, the frustrating calls that we get, the billions of dollars that's going into, we hear you that it's the county in charge of mental health, but the billions of dollars that is unaccounted for, that audits aren't happening in the city of Los Angeles, that are supposed to go to get these people off the streets, that are supposed to go there to protect our children and to protect ourselves and to protect our businesses. That is a city of Los Angeles responsibility, right?
Well,
the billions of dollars that's...
Well, yes and no. I mean, well, first off, it's always a responsibility. I'm never going to shirk responsibility or say it's not the city's responsibility. But LASA, which is the organization that you're referring to, which is a joint powers organization between the city and the county. And interesting history on LASA. LASA was started because the city sued the county for not dealing with the mentally ill and drug addicted populations. And I've said we should sue them again, but that's, so they sued. There was basically a settlement agreement to say, okay, well, why don't you guys work together and create this joint powers authority that will deal with this issue. And so that responsibility has been sort of foisted on LASA, which grew way too fast. You know, they were originally just this contracting entity, and then all this money, as you said, federal money, state money, and city general fund money.
So why won't an audit, why won't anyone have the guts to stand up and say, where's the beef? Where's the money?
Oh, I mean, I've been yelling at that for years, and I still am saying that. And I mean, there are audits that happen there, but you know, as we've seen recently in the newspaper, obviously not enough. And LASA has been opaque. I mean, as my team could say, like, I bang my head against the wall and go to these hearings and demand data, and then I'm told that we can't get the data because it's always a different reason, but because of HIPAA laws. I'm like, well, show me, you know, who's being treated and how and where they're going. Oh, well, there's federal laws about that. We can't share that with you.
So when you say you're being told, and again, just help us out, because again, this is a lot of us folks. We're asked to pay more taxes. We're asked to stand in line and wait. But it's, who are these people that are putting these roadblocks up? Is it the mayor? Is it the chair of the homeless committee? Is it the controller of the city of Los Angeles? Is it Rob Bonta up in Sacramento? Who are these?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's always nice to find a villain. I don't know that there is a particular villain that we can find in this. But what there is there is a system, and I hate to use this word of homeless industrial complex, but there is a homeless industrial complex. And the way that LASA was set up, it is the fox watching the chicken coop. That most of the LASA is actually run by what's called the COC. I mean, and even figuring out how LASA is run there's 15 different boards, and many of them, the service entities that actually get the money are the ones that are responsible for the management of it.
Okay.
It's a lot to unpack. It's a lot to, and there's not a. I mean, I wish there were a simple villain to go after.
Well, so when you talk, there are organizations that are behind the curtain. There is the Oz that's behind the curtain that's kind of manipulating some of this stuff. Nobody really wants to talk about it, but there are these. I've been a registered Democrat my entire life. I've lived in the Valley my entire life. But the DSA, the Democratic Socialists, the far left, and again, I love social programs. I've been given to social programs my entire life. And I care for the folks that are on the street. But the folks on the street are being ignored. They're being ignored. And they're being used as Ponzi's by organizations, right? So right?
No, I hear you on that. I mean, I've had my own experiences with that.
Why? Look, we have on the far right, we have MAGA, and people are scared to go ahead and say, Donald Trump, stop doing this and stop doing that, right? Is the same thing happening in the Democratic Party, where the Democrats are afraid to say DSA is destroying California, is destroying Los Angeles, is corrupt because DSA supports all these organizations that you're talking about. These folks in this room know about it. The press sometimes talks about it, but the press is kind of manipulated by DSA as well, right? I mean, I know you don't want to say a whole lot about DSA because you don't want them to attack.
No,
They're going after you, the gentleman that's running for your office.
No, I get that, and they go after me all the time.
Okay.
That's, I get that, and I'm, I'm obviously not a fan of DSA at all. I've made no bones about it, and there's lots of reasons for that. I mean, it doesn't mean, look, even a stop clock is right twice a day. So they may have an idea that's good here or there. And so it's not like I can't work with DSA members, and I have, and I do. Like I worked on with one of my colleagues, Eunice Hernandez, I work with her on the unarmed crisis response stuff. But we have very different views on it because I think it's a great idea, but I look at it as a supplement to the police. She looks at it as a replacement. And I don't think there's no way it's ever going to be a replacement, but it sure as heck can actually supplement in a good way and help let the police focus on policing. But so we can work together on those kinds of things and be able to find common cause.
So you've been in the belly of the beast for 12 years. You have a magic wand now. You're king of Los Angeles.
I like this guy, yeah.
Okay, you're King Bob.
Love it.
You can solve homelessness in Los Angeles in 2 years. By doing what?
And as king, I control county and city money.
100%.
Oh yeah, I got this done.
Tell me what.
Well, I would put programs out there that where you have treatment programs. I would have people have to you have a choice.
So
you're not allowed on the streets to be encamping on the streets, but we have a place that you can go. But if you choose not to go, that's where there's.
So you create these treatment programs. I, living on the street, I don't want to go to that treatment program because it's got rules. What happens to me now?
There's a couple. I like the idea of the care court, and I like the idea of, and I think we really need to have more. We can't let people kill themselves on the streets. Right. Right now, the laws are very permissive. The only way that you can get someone off the street, against their will, is a 5150 hold, basically where they are an immediate threat to themselves or someone else. I have been in situations where I'm talking to someone on the street who's got covered in feces, they're not wearing a shirt, I'm thinking of a particular incident, and it's cold, and they're like, this person is going to die on the street. And we finally get the county mental health to come out there. And they basically say, oh, are you threatening anybody? Or are you a threat to yourself? Are you trying to kill yourself or somebody else? And they have enough wherewithal to say no. And then they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. And I'm like, the guy is off his rocker.
But
and
Bob, you're king now. And the reality is you've been in this belly for 12 years now. If it's broken in the city, if it's broken in the county, if it's broken in the state, then all those guys need to get together and say, we need to change state law.
Yeah.
Other states, it's not as bad. Other cities, it's not as bad. You go to Glendale, you go to Pasadena, that's in the county of Los Angeles. It's not as bad as Los Angeles. So we're doing something wrong.
We're doing something wrong. We're also, we are a magnet as well for lots of reasons. I mean, you've heard of body brokers and some of this, that situation where you have drug addiction mills, essentially, or drug treatment mills where they invite people from all over the country. And I've met people on the streets who've been victim of this. They're told they get their insurance is going to cover them for a couple of months, and they're going to go to Los Angeles, sunny Los Angeles. They come here, they get a free bus ticket, and they're here, and then their insurance runs out, and they're at a subpar place that's kind of just a scam. And then after 2 months, they're obviously not cured, and then they're like, oh, your insurance is out, you're out on the street. So we get our fair share of folks who are coming here for things like that, or just because, of course, we are a warm, great place. I mean,
and we're an easy mark. I mean, Glendale, Pasadena is just as warm as the Valley, but Los Angeles, we're.
Okay. That's true. There's a lot that we can do. We also, being Los Angeles, we get sued. This is the other issue too. We get sued, and the courts, if I were king, I would definitely be changing some of the court rulings. I mean, we have like Garcia versus Los Angeles, where we used to be able to pick up bulky items on the street when, you know, somebody had an old couch on the street that was blocking things. You could pick it up and throw it away. Garcia, Judge Fisher in the Ninth Circuit basically ruled and said, you know, you have to treat the large items the same as you would a small item. In other words, if you're going to take that property away from someone, you have to bag it, tag it, store it for 90 days or however many days. And so here you have, we're being forced, if we want to remove this couch that was probably taken off somebody else's lawn or something that, you know, and it's flea infested, it's in the marketplace, it's not worth anything, but we're going to have to pay the city to pick it up, bring it to one of the storage places, the biggest one is downtown, you know, mark it, store it. You know how much that costs us? So it ends up being like $1,000 or more to be storing in court, and it's not scalable, and that we get sued, and other cities get away with it.
Okay. So should we give up? Homelessness is just our part.
Not at all.
So should we maybe insist on more strict rules?
Yeah, and part of it, you know, there have been some positive things in terms of the rules, like the grants pass decision. It's not what a lot of people think it is in terms of that they think it means we're able to just remove people from the streets. It was really focused on the Eighth Amendment, but it did give us more flexibility. But part of it is we need to be able to pass these laws in the city, like, because I'm not the king, unfortunately. Like 4118, yeah. Are you familiar with 4118? Yeah. So that's refers to the municipal code section which prohibits people from sit, lie, sleep on the sidewalk. And that used to be the law in the land of Los Angeles, where you were not allowed to sit, lie, or sleep on the street. That was ruled unconstitutional. And it was completely eliminated. I came back then when that happened, and I said, well, let's do 4118 light, where at least we can make a legal justification for being able to say that certain areas can be off limits to encampments. Even if we can't legally make the whole city off limits, we could make certain areas off limits. And that's what was referred to as the new 4118.
Like schools, opposed to schools and churches?
That was the second bullet on it. But we started off with just certain sensitive areas, like underpasses and around interventions. We then expanded it to include 500 feet from schools and other sensitive uses. So that is in play, but that was very controversial, and I almost didn't get it passed.
But the DSA, again, I'm going to go back, and again, I don't...
And the DSA protested me at my house because I did that.
Okay, and the DSA folks think that they won't enforce what's already in place, and it's
well, many of them say that
they don't want to move them because then they don't have the proper shelter. It's not fair to move them from here to over there.
Well, it's worse than that. I mean, I had a situation, and I remember it very vividly, where there was a guy on the street, and we had a place for him at the Willows, and he looked like he was going to die that night. And I said to him, if you don't go into this place, you are going to die. And I literally said that to him, and he pulled out the card of a DSA person, I won't mention their name, and he said, this person said, I don't have to go anywhere, I can stay wherever I want, you can't tell me to go there. And I said, but we have a room for you, you can go there. Long story short, he died that night. And I'll never forget it, but that's exactly that reason,
yeah.
You know.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next subject, going backwards on your list. You talk about all these millions of homes that we're going to be required to build. I own a restaurant, and I'm a successful real estate agent. And in the real estate side of it, most of my clients, probably 75% of the folks that are selling their homes, are selling those homes because they're moving out of state, because they can. In the restaurant business, we have lost well over 50% of our regular customers, because we're in Studio City and the entertainment industry is gone and it's not coming back. Exactly what you said as far as the loss of focus. The only businesses that I see that are really thriving, that you see opening more often than not, are pot shops and massage facilities, okay? You drive down any main street, Ventura Boulevard, Sherman Way, any of the main streets, and I've lived in this valley all my life, I've never seen so many vacancies. That's in the small businesses. On the large businesses, California is hemorrhaging the businesses. So we're building these houses for who? For who? I mean, ULA has squashed the developers' motivation. They're going to share an extra 4% of the gross sale, not their profit, but the gross sale of what they're going to sell the building for, to feed this housing fund that gets spent on everything other than housing. Development has never been less in Los Angeles. The building permits they're non-existing. So we're building SB 79. We're required to build all these housing for who? I also do a lot of rentals. People aren't coming here anymore. They're not the amount of rentals. When we used to put a place on the market for rent at a fair market rent, not a gouge like a lot of folks, some people do. Housing providers are not slumlords. There are slumlords that are housing providers, but that's not all of them. So who are we building these houses for in Los Angeles?
Well, in Los Angeles, we still are in a housing crisis in the sense that we don't have enough housing for the people that want to live here. For your kids, for your grandkids, they can't afford to live nearby because the housing prices are so expensive.
But stop right there. Why are the housing prices so high?
Part of it is supply and demand.
No, part of it is because overregulation. We have the highest minimum wage in the country. We have workman's compensation that is the highest in the country. We have the billboard lawyers that sue every developer, every business owner. We have insurance that is impossible to get, but if you can get it, it's very expensive. That's why, and those are.
But that's true in the entire state. And I mean, the question is, why is LA even worse?
LA is going to be very affordable soon because there are more homes on the market right now that aren't selling. 30% of the homes that come on the market come off the market because they can't sell them.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is we need to be turning this around in lots of different ways. And you mentioned a bunch of things. It's hard to unpack all of them, but like even starting with the entertainment industry, I don't want to give up on saying that it's gone. I was author of one of the original tax credit at the state level. I've been working hard with the entertainment industry to see what we can do in the city to further incentivize. Just started something called a microdrama incentive program. We're trying to put basically $1 million pilot together to incentivize this new form of entertainment called microdramas. So I do think that, and part of it is by nature, I'm an optimist. I couldn't be in this business if I wasn't. I feel like there's always something that we can do to make it better. So I'm not giving up on the entertainment industry, and I'm not giving up on our city of Los Angeles. We have a lot of challenges, as you mentioned, and part of that is a number of the systemic issues that you mentioned, some of which the city can't obviously control the insurance and can't control a lot of those bigger factors. You mentioned ULA. Well, today we had a vote in council to try to amend ULA at the ballot, specifically to go back to the voters and try to carve out multifamily homes and some of the places where we've been seeing the reduction in building starts. And that was a controversial vote as well. I think it passed 9-6. So I voted for that exemption to take it to the ballot so that we could exempt out the multifamily homes to try to make sure that ULA has less of a detrimental impact on our housing starts. It has a positive impact in terms of putting money into affordable housing programs, which is great. But we also have to have housing for the middle, the missing middle. If you have enough money, you can buy it anywhere. But and the ULA money can help with the low income housing. But for the missing middle folks, you need to have market housing, and so we need to do everything that we can do to incentivize that market housing. And part of it is sending this back to the ballot to have ULA looked at.
Okay. So you were part of, I think you were coming from tonight, the charter reform.
Yes.
So I believe that there is a motion, or maybe even to go on the ballot through charter reform, that I think might have passed, that folks that are not citizens can vote in local elections, and people and lower the voting age from 18 to 16.
So both of those were ideas that people had. The one about allowing non-citizens to vote, which I voted against, what passed was not to allow that to happen, but to put on the ballot, again, I voted against this, but it was to put on the ballot authorization. If the voters will authorize that to happen, it will kick it back to the council to do by ordinance. Because part of it is, a lot of us said, look, even if you want to do this, there are so many complications on this. For example, we don't even run our own ballots. That's the county, so you're going to have separate ballots. There's lots of practical questions about this, whether or not, putting aside the bigger question of whether you should do it, but if you are doing it, all the practical questions. So the proponents of it amended it and said, okay, we're not going to just put that on the ballot. We're just going to put on the ballot to the voters, do you want us to go down that road? And so that did pass, to put that on the ballot, to ask the voters if they want us to go down that road. And if the voters say they do, it still has to get kicked back to the council to come up with ordinances and to come up with a system that would make that possible.
So on the November ballot, there's going to be a ballot measure that is asking us to decide on non-citizens being allowed to vote in local elections?
Correct.
And 16-year-olds being allowed to vote in local elections?
The 16-year-olds hadn't happened before. I left early because I had to come here. And I don't think, to the 16-year-old thing, I don't think it happened yet. I think that was one of the ones that was still pending. I was going to be a no. I have kids. I was going to be a no vote on that. But so me not being there meant that at least there's you need 8 votes, so my vote wasn't going to be there for it either way.
But the non-citizens being allowed to vote did pass. That's going to be a ballot measure that we all get to say yes or no for?
We all get to say yes or no for, and even if we say yes, even if the greater city says yes, it still doesn't happen. All that they're saying yes to, not all, but what they're saying yes to is allowing the council, if it chooses, to expand who can vote in local elections by ordinance.
What does that mean?
So that means so it goes to the voters to say, do you want to allow the council to expand who's allowed to vote beyond citizens? The voters of the city say yes or no. If they say no, it's over. If they say yes, then nothing has changed, but now the council, by ordinance, if they choose, is allowed to, put forward laws that would expand who can vote in elections.
Well, but this is the same council that is voting to put this on the ballot. They obviously want non-citizens to vote, and they want people 16 years of age to vote.
Well, I don't know if that passed yet because I came here.
But at least, I'm sorry. But the non-citizens is going to be on the ballot.
What's going to be on the ballot is whether or not the public wants to allow the council to go and do this. Now, because the council, I hear what you're saying. If there are enough votes to put it on the ballot, although some people have the view that they want to give the choice to the voters, but they're not necessarily. But the important thing is that it doesn't just happen. There's so many practical things that would prevent this from happening. So even if the council wants to do it, it's not so easy to do it. But I agree with you. I think it was a mistake to even put it on the ballot. That's why I spoke up against it and why I voted no.
And hold on, please. So I actually have somebody who wrote in to talk about the ballot harvesting. That's the next question. So okay. It's amazing that the city of Los Angeles city council members, we have such bigger issues that we're worried about. I mean, I would assume, and again, I don't like to assume. Let me ask you the question. Was this a proposal that was put out by a DSA candidate?
Yeah, no, it was Hugo Soto Martinez was the proponent of this.
Okay.
He is a card-carrying, pin-wearing DSA member.
Okay.
So we have three
but you-
DSA members on the council.
You have how many?
We have 3 card-carrying members of the DSA, and then we have a couple of others who play footsie with the DSA or are close, but are not. I wouldn't call them card-carrying.
But 8 council members agreed to get this on the ballot.
I think it was 10.
Oh, God help us. Okay. Wow.
I think it was 10.
Okay. So we've heard a lot.
I can tell you what their logic was. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, they want the voters to respond. But look, the voters.
It's not that they're saying that. Look, if someone, there are other cities that do this, and it's. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I want you to at least understand what they're saying. Which
There's
is,
3 cities in the country that allow that.
Yeah.
One is San Francisco, one is, I think, Modesto, and one is a little tiny town. And they only allow elections for school board.
a number of them do. I think a couple others do school, but it doesn't matter. Just so you know what they're thinking is that somebody who's a permanent resident, who's living, working, raising kids, should have a voice in local government. There's also the fear, like, if you're undocumented, you're not gonna be asked to put yourself on a list to vote, because that basically just gives the Trump administration a sheet of paper to who they can go after. So I think if this happens, it's going to be much more limited to like permanent residents and that kind of thing.
But unfortunately, just like with ULA was sold to the citizens of Los Angeles as a mansionization tax. Tax the rich, tax the mansions, and the reality is that's where it's being trying to roll back to. It's harmed charitable organizations that get donations. It's harmed developers wanting to come in and do multifamily because there is no profit. And so no developer is going to build in Los Angeles. They're building all around in other cities, but they're not building in Los Angeles. So we were lied to with ULA as the mansion tax. And now we're going to be probably lied to on the November ballot as far as that this, but anyway, let's move on. So ballot harvesting has been a big issue in the last mayoral election. It's been an issue that's been out there for a long time. It's being done. It's been done. It's legal in California.
Right.
What are your thoughts on ballot harvesting? Should it be legal?
Well, and of course, we need to define what we're talking about. I don't know that everybody knows what it means.
Okay, so you want me to tell? Or
Sure.
my version?
Go ahead, your version.
You tell me if I'm wrong.
All right.
So from what I understand, and I get some of this actually from the DSA website, because it's actually on their website as far as what they suggest their members do. But basically, ballot harvesting is you go to anyone and you say, hi, Alice, I see that you're not registered to vote. Would you like to vote? And they say, sure, I'd like to vote. I haven't voted in the past, and so they register your vote. You'll get a mail on election day, not on election day, but a few weeks before when all the ballots go out. Folks know that the ballots went out. Hey, Alice, remember I registered you to vote? I came to your house? Yeah. You got your ballot, right? Yeah. There's some great candidates out there that are running, for your seat. As a matter of fact, this guy, Tim, he's no good. This other person is running against him. He's good. He's going to fight for your right as an apartment owner, as a renter. I see you're renting here in this apartment. And you should vote for this other person, not Tim. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Oh, and then here's this other thing, and here's this other thing. And let me go through the ballot with you. And they go through the ballot, and they say, oh, by the way, Alice, there's a bunch of fraud going on right now. You probably heard about it. I can take your ballot, and I can make sure that it's counted. See on the back of this ballot, on this envelope? You just sign your name. I have to sign my name to make sure, and I'll make sure it gets to the ballot boxes. Oh, you do that for me? Yeah. Not only will I do that for you, I'll make sure, because it's so important. That's why I'm here, Alice. So we see these things on election day. This person is up by 9%, and then by the time all the ballots are harvested or collected or counted, because they wait until the very last day to make sure that they are counted, it's legal. Is that am I
you're
close?
You're
a
very
little dramatic.
No, I think you're very on spot. I mean, but most of what you said is traditional campaigning, which is you knock on someone's door, you say there's an election, you tell them who you want to vote for. If you're smart, you come back when the ballots are out and you say, hey, did you vote yet? It's called GOTV. Every candidate I've ever been involved with or election does that basic part. The harvesting comes in, that's where I think it gets more insidious, which is I'll take your ballot.
Right.
Right. But the first part of your discussion, which is going to somebody, telling them, who you think they should vote for, knocking on their door, following up when they have the ballots and they're ready to go, and encouraging them to vote. That's our system. I mean, that to me is, there's nothing wrong with that. Where I find it troubling is, I don't like the idea of somebody taking someone else's ballot and then, mailing it for them. But it's hard to tell the difference if you're allowed to mail somebody's ballot if they're, they may be handicapped, they may be elderly, whatever the reason is. Sometimes it's a convenience to have a family friend or someone take your ballot. I think part of this is an education campaign. We should tell people not to give their ballots to other folks, because the downside is, if you don't trust that person, are they opening up your ballot? Are they making changes? Are they only going to deliver the ones that they know are supporting the candidate they support? I mean, that's where it gets illegal.
Yeah. And so you don't favor ballot harvesting? You think ballot harvesting should be altered or changed?
Yeah. I don't.
Banned?
The whole word harvesting is a little scary to me.
Ballot collecting. Let's call it ballot collecting.
Yeah, but
because they don't work for the county.
Right. No.
If they throw them in the garbage.
Yeah, I think the first part of it, campaigning, knocking on someone's door, that's American as apple pie, which is, campaigning, following up, encouraging someone to vote. That's our system. What I don't like and what I would discourage is I don't think it should be, I don't think it's appropriate, maybe it shouldn't be legal if you are a campaign person to take someone's ballot. It's one thing if you're a family friend, et cetera, to take a ballot, but I think if you are actually campaigning, that you should not be touching someone's ballot. It's just like, when you're at a polling place, you're not allowed to campaign at a polling place. Like you can set certain rules and regulations. I would feel a lot more comfortable in that scenario, but I don't want to limit people's ability to,
campaign.
To campaign.
No, I don't either. But again, when I tell people the ballot harvesting, what's going on and what they're doing, most people are like, what? I mean, how many people in this room knew that process actually happened? Okay, this is an exception, and we've actually lost quite a few folks too.
What is the insidious part of the process to you? It's the taking of the ballot.
100%.
Right, but all the other stuff that you talked about.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that. No, I don't, because that's, they're not holding a gun to their head. They're talking to them. What about what's been happening in Skid Row? Susan Collins was actually in Skid Row recently. And
the transition's great. You look like you haven't been living on Skid Row at all.
She's doing great. Transitional housing is great. So Susan was there. Susan, were folks telling you that they voted? So I guess congratulations should go to City of Los Angeles because our homeless folks are voting. That's great. Let's hear it for City of Los Angeles, right?
Well,
no applause.
I would be fine if our homeless folks were voting if they lived here, but what really scares me about what you're talking about is that they're not voting. It's going to a location. I mean, like, that's,
Well, we know that's happening, but
if it's going to a shelter and it's getting delivered to somebody living there, I don't have a problem fundamentally with that. If they're telling them to go to a location, they're having it sent to a place where the ballot harvesters are filling out their ballots, that is illegal. And like that, I would tell Captain Zine about that, and he'll be on it right away because that's,
but we can't. But look. We can't
audit.
We can't audit. We can't audit. We can't ask for. There's no independent audits of because there's nothing going on. There's no proof that it's been done as far as that.
Well, if you can get people to testify that they didn't vote, and we have a record. I mean, the county keeps pretty good records of who voted and who didn't vote. Just like when you vote, you can follow whether your vote has been counted or not. Once you put it in the mailbox, you go online and you see, have they counted it? And then you see when they have counted it.
So how many people does Susan have to give names of to Captain Zine that said that they voted and said that there was an address so that he can go ahead and create a warrant or an inquiry in so that the county will go ahead and release the voting records for all those people that
You kind of have to go and release. You can look it up online.
You can look up what online?
Who's voted?
Here, come up here. I can't. Let's the folks at home hear this as well, Susan.
There's a record. I can go right now on the PDI system, I can look up the list of names of I can look your name up and I can know exactly which elections you voted in and which ones you didn't vote in. There's a list of every single voter.
So when I was downtown, the people that we all spoke with said that law enforcement is well aware of what's going on. They see it happening. They're well aware of the people paying for the signatures for petitions, and that law enforcement has told everybody that enforcement of election violations or anything like that is a federal issue, and that LAPD does not have the authority to intervene. That's what we were told.
You said people paying for petitions?
So what I was told downtown was correct, that LAPD cannot intervene in election.
But obviously somebody can. So if it's, I mean.
Well, hold on. Governor Newsom, I believe what you're talking about, the law that he just signed into law was, Susan, come back here, is exactly what Chris is saying, is that local law enforcement does not have authority to go ahead and request an audit on any elections. And that just passed a month ago, or 2 months ago, right? A couple of weeks ago. So you're
I'm outdated on my information in terms of who can look at it.
Yeah.
But somebody can and somebody should. I mean, if people are voting illegally, we need to get that. I don't know if it's from the DA or if it's Bonta. Like, that information needs to go to
Bonta, Newsom, Bonta. I mean, it's not. Well, they kind of go lockstep each other.
But even Newsom is not going to be for this kind of fraud.
So on the petition signatures, where, as I'm sure you know, the woman was just recently arrested. She's been doing this for 20 years. She's pled guilty. My question on that nobody seems to be really pursuing is, I know signature gatherers, they get paid per verified signature. So when they go down there and they ask people to sign, and they have them on video saying, okay, you're going to be Susan Collins, you sign right here, they give the address and they sign. And they pay them $2, $3, $5, whatever it is, right? They're doing this hundreds of times a day.
To commit fraud, you're saying? They're signing somebody else's name?
They're signing somebody else's name. So my question that really I think needs to be addressed on these petitions, because that's what gets things on the ballot, is these people would not be down there all day paying people for their signatures if they weren't confident that when they got to the registrar's office, they would be approved. They're not going to make a financial and time investment. We're talking about 20 years this woman has been doing this. So she was confident, and there are still lots of people. What I was told again on Skid Row is that the people just now, they've moved from having tables in front of the shelters or tables on the corner of the streets. They're now just doing it out of their cars. So this is still going on. They're still paying people. And like I said, nobody is going to invest thousands of dollars a day to collect signatures if they don't know that when those signatures hit the registrar's office, they are going to be approved. Who's
yet,
checking with the registrar's office?
I mean, the
That's
registrar,
a big problem.
And I hear you. That would be horrible. And of course, the registrar is supposed to be checking signatures. And what's odd is that I actually know people who've had their ballot rejected because their signature didn't match their ballot. And I mean, probably some of you do too. And then they had to redo it because they, or sign exactly. If I sign Bob instead of Robert, I go by Bob, but my legal name is Robert. My ballot will get kicked back. So it's weird that they're able to do this. If they're able to do this on Skid Row, that some random person can sign someone's name so well that it matches the voter registrar's signature.
So it's thank you. But who's looking into this? And again, we as citizens want to just know that our elections are fair.
Of course.
So if the doors close and everyone's just saying, sure, it's fair, trust me, no audit. Why not audit?
Well, I'm all for audits. I'm all for transparency.
So who calls for that audit?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, in terms of, because also you said that the law changed recently in terms of who can and can't enforce that. So I'm happy to look into who. So the Secretary of State's website has something for investigations, so we can go that route in terms of, I mean, this kind of thing. But I agree. I mean, if there's voter fraud, we should be going after it. There's no argument there. Our elections,
and again,
democracy is based on free and fair elections.
Yeah, and again, this is not. We're citizens. We're not MAGA that's saying, "Hey, let's investigate the Democrats." We want to invest. If there's shenanigans going on, let's have a level playing field. That's all we're asking for.
I agree with you.
So would you do me a favor, because this has been something that our group has been involved with for a while, but we're getting a lot of calls and a lot of noise being made about this. If you find that stuff out, would you let me know?
Yes.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
Alice will be the contact because you guys know Alice very well. But we'll look into it and try to figure out who is the vehicle for that and what kind of audits are being done. But
and if all these are going to a certain address, whose address is this? Who controls this address?
Well, yeah, and obviously if you're committing fraud, that's pretty stupid to put an address there that you can have.
But if you're not going to get checked, it's like people who cheat on their taxes, people who jaywalk every day. If there's not enforcement, there's not enforcement. I want to go back to one last question because I appreciate your time here, but this is on going back to SB 79, and you're talking about on the golf course because that's in your area. CEQA, environmental impacts, all that stuff is stripped away. It's all stripped away, and I think it's absolutely horrible what's happening in Woodland Hills on the golf course issue, and obviously the developer worked with somebody who wrote that bill to put that pork into that so that nobody could find it. So that's traceable as far as who put that pork in. But the reality is that we are faced here in the Valley, we are faced here in Sherman Oaks with SB 79. And our EIRs are gone. The impact of a 4-story building next to Maria's home, is that going to devalue her property? Of course it is. A multi-unit place right next door to you in your single-family neighborhood, is your property value going to be worth the same as it was yesterday? Absolutely not. So you want affordable housing, you're going to get it because you're devaluing so many people's lives. So based on that, because the city didn't stand up and fight for it, and they didn't, they could have fought for it a lot stronger with Wiener and the other folks in Sacramento. But because they didn't do that, doesn't the city of Los Angeles owe the people that are going to be affected at least a letter saying, by the way, on July 1st, we are going to do this compromise, and instead of a 6-story building, which the state law says we can do, good news, it's only going to be a 4-story building. Shouldn't people know about that?
People should know about it. Certainly, and you say the city didn't fight against it. I mean, not everybody in the city voted this way, but we voted certainly to activate our lobbyists to oppose SB 79. I voted against SB 79. I spoke out about it. Even the mayor was opposed to SB 79.
How about filing a lawsuit? How about looking underneath and finding some? You guys have, the city attorneys. You have a huge law firm downtown called the city attorney's office. How about finding, instead of saying, okay, we have to file a lawsuit based on something, find that smoking gun somewhere. But if you don't file a lawsuit, going back to that original question, don't you owe folks that aren't as smart as Maria or aren't as knowledgeable as Maria, don't you owe the folks that own properties all in these affected areas, at least letting them know what's, because
we need to let people know, absolutely, and doing that. I mean, there's been obviously newspaper articles, there's been all sorts of information that's put out there. This idea that the letter, I know what you're referring to, that putting a letter out that's going to go to people within this specific area is going to magically change anything. I don't think it is. We don't do that in any other land use decisions or any other policy decisions. So it would be unique to spend that kind of money doing that.
Hold on with what you just said. I was a planning commissioner for 11 years in the South Valley.
For policy decisions, but for plan, yes.
So if there is a development that's going to go on, the neighbors are notified,
yes,
and they have the opportunity to say something. This is not happening.
Well, this isn't a project that's being. They get notified of projects that are being done. I would love to send a letter out. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, it's not magically going to cure anything. We do need to. It needs to be publicized. We need to have conversations like this that we're having here. The word needs to get out. The word is getting out. People, SB 79 is something that a lot of people are aware of right now, although people always conflate it and they assume that the city is doing it. I mean, on all these things, it's like even when the Woodland Hills project was put out there, I went to a meeting and everyone was saying, well, why are you doing this? I said, I'm not doing this. I'm actually trying to fight it, but it's a state law that has changed what's happening here in Los Angeles. And same thing with SB 79. We're really between a rock and a hard place because the way that the laws work, if the state tells us to do something, we can't say no as a city, just like the federal government supersedes the city. We're a charter city. There are certain areas where we have jurisdiction, but the courts, when we don't do what the courts tell us to do, we get sued, as in the Alliance case in homelessness. And so, we try to fight back as a city on a number of things, and sadly, we tend to lose, and we tend to lose lots of money on all these lawsuits. I mean, one of my biggest frustrations in the city right now is all the money that goes out the door on these lawsuits, liability lawsuits, employee lawsuits, and when we go off trying to sue, like we had an ED1 case, is a good example. Like, shouldn't we sue and do something? ED1, you familiar with ED1? It's an executive directive. It allows family housing in certain areas. Well, it was, by right. When it first came out, it was not clear enough that it didn't apply to single-family home areas. And a couple of developers slipped in and applied for ED1 in single-family areas. Most of them were in my district. There was one in this area. And I fought it, and everyone said, you can't, they're vested, you can't do anything. I said, no, we have to do something. We have to sue. We have to go. We went crazy. We sued. I got the council, not everybody on the council, but got a majority of the council to back me on this to sue, because what it meant was that in single-family neighborhoods, they would all of a sudden your neighbor would have a 7-story building. And this happened in 3 different areas in my district. And I said, this isn't fair for these folks. And the only reason, and the mayor said this was not our intention, and
it was changed.
And it was changed, but it was changed prospectively. And I tried to argue that it was, even though it was changed, it wasn't changed, that it was just a clarification. Unfortunately, the courts ruled against us. We lost a lot of money, and we also lost those cases so that those developers are now building those 7-story homes next to single-family homes in my district, despite the fact that we did exactly what we kicked and screamed and sued.
Well, thank you for fighting for that. In our district, we had one ED1, and our council person said nothing we can do about it. And yeah,
I mean,
Maria.
sadly, she was right, because I fought it and lost.
But at least you fought it. At least you talked to your, yes. And that won by 1 vote. It won by 1 vote. Well, maybe they were maybe one of them that voted yes to it was one of the folks that got paid off on that Woodland Hills pork bill. Maybe. Not saying that they are. I don't know.
I don't know, but definitely part of it is realizing that we do need to lobby our state reps. I mean, telling the city to lobby the state, having been in the assembly years ago, before all these crazy bill things were happening on local control, I can tell you, though, that in the legislature, they're not really thinking, oh, what does the city of LA think? What they're thinking is, what do my constituents think? So when you have a representative that represents you, you're much better off going directly to your representative than trying to get do both, but then trying to get your city council to weigh in to go tell your rep what to do, because your assembly rep or your senate rep, they don't really think that their city reps know better than they do. They just don't. You know, they get these resolutions from the city all the time saying, do this, do that, support this bill, support that bill. And they're like, well, you know, why should I listen to them? I represent the community. I know just as well what my community wants.
So, Bob, I want to thank you very much. For the folks that are at home, thank you. Let's hear it for Bob.
Thanks.
For the folks that are at home, if you haven't fallen asleep yet, from me, not from Bob, you were fantastic.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm a soporific.
I'm sorry. So at our mayoral debate, both Nithya and Karen both committed to having a debate on July 15th. So that's 4 weeks away. We're still formalizing things, but mark your calendars, July 15th. We're very excited to have them both back, and both of their gloves, I'm sure, will be on, and it's going to be a very civil issue. We will not be serving food that night, so eat before you come here. And thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Great, man. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come meet with you. Again, it's a pleasure, and I look forward to working with all of you now and in the future.